Hi everyone. In this video I am going to explain about string, string buffer and string builder. These things are very important from the interview perspective also. So let us concentrate on this, and by the end of this video we will get some good knowledge on these topics. Let us start with an example and we will go one by one. I have created a main method. I have created two string objects. Okay. And I have added an if condition to check if these two references are same or not. Okay, if you are a beginner, you may assume that these two string objects are different. I mean the references are different, so you may think that the output will be not equal. But can you see the output is equal? Let us see why this printed equal instead of not equal. Okay, when you say name is equal to Venkat like this, internally a string object will be created in the memory, and name is a reference variable, is a reference which points to the object in the heap. Okay, in the same way, if you say name copy is equal to Venkat, then what happens is name copy. Okay, now it won't create another object. When you create a string object using string literal means the string content within double quotes. This is called string literal. Okay, when you try to create another string object with the same content, already there is a string called Venkat, right? So what happens is Java won't create another string object. Instead, this reference also pointed to the same existing object. There is a concept called string pool in Java. Okay, I won't go into very complex details about the string pool, but internally what happens is when you create a string object using string literal notation, it will store that object in the pool. So when you create another string object with the same content, instead of creating new string object, it will create, instead of creating another object, it will, this name copy also gets pointed to the existing string object. I am not going to discuss how many objects will be created after these two statements, how many will be in the string pool and how many will be in the heap, and all those things I am not going to cover. I will cover the important things from the interview perspective. Okay, so if you create another object, say string name 3 is equal to Venkat, the same, since already there is an string object with Venkat, it won't create another object. So name 3 also gets pointed to the same object. See, maybe internally where this object will be maintained and all this we are not going to see here. But remember, when you have created a string and if you try to create the same string object, that means with the same content, it won't create new object. That is what I want to teach you in this concept. Okay, when you create a string Venkat and if you try to create again using string literal, it won't create another object. That is the reason. See, double equal to won't check the content, it will check the if references are same or not. That is the reason it printed equal. Okay, now let us see. I will create name 4. Now instead of using string literal, I will say new, and now we will see what will happen if I use I'm comparing string name4 with name. Okay, name contains string object Venkat, right? And I create another object with the same content. Okay, now let us print this. What it will show? Can you see not equal? But earlier I said whenever I create a string object, whenever I create the same string object, it will not create the object and it will point to an existing object. Then in this case, name4 should match with the name. But what happens is when you say new, it won't check in the pool. Even though there is an existing object, when you say new, it will always create a new object. Okay, so name4 is a reference pointing to another string object Venkat. So remember, this is called string literal notation. If you create a string object like this, it will check if there is any string object already with this content. But if you use a new to create the string object, it won't check if there is any object already in the pool or not. That is the reason name4 and all these three are pointing to one object and name4 is pointing to another object. Understand? That is the reason name4, you can see from the picture, right? Name4 is pointing to another object. So this reference won't be equal to any of the name or name copy and name3 because all three are pointing to same object. If you compare these three, that will be same reference. But if you use a new string, it will create another object irrespective of the same object existing in the pool or not. Okay, that is the topic. Now what we can do, we can use another method, name file is equal to new string of Venkat. There is a method called intern. Okay, now let us see what it will print now. Name 5. I am comparing name 5 with name. Okay, now when you say new, I said that it won't check if the string is already there or not. It will always create a new object, right? Now let us see this printed not equal. Now let us see what will happen now. Equal. So you have to understand that even if you create object using new and if you call the dot intern, what will happen is it will try to see if there is an object already existing. If you call intern method on the newly created object, then again it will check if there is any existing object. If you simply say new string of Venkat, it won't check if there is any object in the pool. That is why it created new object. But if you say dot intern, then again it will check if the object is there in the pool or not. That's why, since already there is an object in the pool with the string Venkat, that's why it printed equal. So this line won't create another object, but this line creates another string object. So if you use this syntax to create string objects, even if you create 10,000 objects, 10,000 objects won't be created, only one object will be created. But if you use new string of Venkat, it will create 10,000 objects. Got it? because it won't check if the object is already existing in the pool or not. Okay, now let us go to concept called mutable immutable. What is meaning of mutable or immutable? Okay, now we will remove all these things. Or I will comment them. I have commented them. Okay, you might have heard that string is immutable. What does it mean? So Venkat, so assume I have created a string object. Okay, assume the reference is name. Okay, let us create string name is equal to Venkat. If I say name is equal to name plus Kumar, let us try to see if assign this to another variable and check if they are same one. Let us see. I have created a string object, right? I have created a string object. Now what I have done, I have concatenated Kumar to it. Now I will try to see if these two references refer to same object or not. Let us see. Run as Java application. Can you see? That means those are not pointing to same object. Let us run again. Can you see? Those are not equal. So immutability means when you append a string to an existing string object, this Kumar won't be appended to the existing string object. So what will happen when you append Kumar to the Venkat, this object won't be modified. Okay, if you say name plus Kumar, then what happened? It will create another object. It will create another object with content Venkat Kumar, and the name copy will point to this new object. Understand? When you append a new string to the existing string object, what happened? This object never got modified. Okay, Instead, what happened when you append a string means a new string is created with this content, with the content of Venkat. A new object will be created. This content will be added with Kumar, and that object will contain the Venkat and Kumar. So this object never got modified. That is the meaning of immutable. Means once you create the object, the content, the object cannot be modified. When you say an object is immutable, that means that object cannot be modified. That is the thing called immutability. Now what happens is, some people think that if I say name is equal to Venkat plus copy and I print out.println name, see, system.out.println before appending name is let us run this. Before appending name is Venkat, and after appending the name became Venkat copy. So by seeing this, some beginners get confused that name is modified. So how can string is immutable? Here the name is modified, right? The name became Venkat copy. Before appending it was Venkat, and you will think that the object is modified, but that is not correct. What happened is, if you see in this picture, originally name is referencing to this object, right? So when you say name is equal to originally name is, let us modify like this, name is equal to name plus copy. So the output won't change. Can you see? I created a string object with Venkat, and after that I am appending a copy to the same name. Then when I printed, before it was Venkat and after that it was Venkat copy. You may think that the original object modified. Then you may think that no, how come string is immutable when this is modified? But that is not correct. When you see this is the original object. If you append Kumar, what happened? This original object never got modified. Okay, when you append a copy, what happened? A new object was created. It contains the content in the original string plus copy, and the name. Now earlier name was pointing to Venkat, right? Now a new object was created, and it contains the string in the original object plus Kumar. So now name is referring to the new object, right? So now if you print name, Venkat Kumar is got printed. It doesn't mean that original object is modified. The reference variable is pointing to new object, but the original object never modified. Remember, you may think that before appending name was Venkat and after appending it became Venkat copy, so name was modified, so the string is modified, and you may think that it is not immutable. But you have to understand that string is immutable, because if you see this picture, this object is not modified, so the string object never modified. I repeat, the original object never modified. The reference variable earlier pointing to this object. Now what happened when you assigned this thing to the name, what happened is the name is now pointing to new object. So the reference variable is modified but not the original object. That is the important thing. This is called, that is why string is called immutable. Okay, now we will proceed to string buffer. We will comment these things. If you say string buffer sp is equal to name is equal to Venkat, if you say name is equal to, sorry, you have to say new string buffer for creating string buffers. And when you say name is equal to, let us assign to a new reference variable name dot append of Kumar. Now let us compare. If name is equal to name copy equal else okay, in the earlier, in the string case, these are different and it printed not equal, but in this case, can you observe, it prints equal, means string buffer is mutable. Let us see what happens when you create a string buffer. Okay, when you create a string buffer and if you say name copy, you said name copy, right? You said name copy is equal to name dot append of Kumar, then what will happen is a new object would be created. Instead, the original string buffer itself gets modified and the name copy also refers to original object. That is why in the case of string buffer, if you see, in when you append a new string in string, the original object never got modified. A new object is created with the original string and the new string, and the reference variable points to new object. But if you append a string, a content to the string buffer, the original object got modified. So that is the reason string buffer is called mutable. Okay, hope you understand. In the case of string, the original object never get modified. If you append a string, a new object will be created. Instead, if you append a string to the string buffer, the original content get modified. Okay, this is called string buffer. Now the most important thing is relating to threading. See, string is immutable, so you can use or share string across multiple threads. String buffer is mutable and string buffer methods are synchronized. So and string builder is mutable and its methods are not synchronized. Let us see. String is immutable, so even if the same string is shared across the threads, there won't be any multiple any concurrency related issues, because if you try to modify, a new string object will be created, so the original object won't be modified. String buffer is mutable, that means when you append a string, the original object gets modified, and these methods are synchronized. So you can use string buffer in when you use the string buffer in multi-threading, means string buffer methods are synchronized. So assume in string buffer there is a method called append. So if one thread called append on the string buffer object, and no other thread cannot enter any synchronized method until the append method is completed. You know that in synchronization means when append method is synchronized in string buffer. So when it is trying to add a content using append method in another thread, this string buffer synchronized methods cannot be called. Okay, string builder is mutable and its methods are not synchronized. If you are not using across multi-threading, means not in sharing this object, if you are not sharing the string builder object, then if you are not sharing the string, then you can use string builder, because the performance will be better, because there is no synchronization. But if you share the string builder object, problems will occur. Let us see with an example. I have created a class. Right now I created string buffer. This is a static. That means I'm trying to simulate the problem. I'm trying to append a content to this buffer from two threads. I have created one thread. Okay, then what I'm doing, I'm appending the content, this entire content, to the static string buffer, and in another thread I am containing thread 2. I have given sleep so that there will be interleaving. That means sometimes for some few milliseconds this thread will run, for few seconds this thread will run. I am running this multiple times. Can you see? There are no exceptions. Okay, now let us change this, because that means when you use suppose this thread is appending content to the original string buffer, right? So even see, append method internally contains many lines. It looks a simple method, but the logic will be so much. So after it performed some lines in the append method, another thread may get control, but if that thread modifies the string buffer, the results will be unpredictable. So that is where, but in string buffer the methods are synchronized. So if in the append, assume there are 10 lines, if after running 5 lines, if the control went to second thread, the second thread cannot call the append method until the first thread completes the append method, because that is called synchronized method. When one thread enters the synchronized method, then even suppose if it contains 10 lines of code in append method, after this thread executes 5 lines, since this is thread related coding, the thread 1 may lose control, so thread 2 may get control and it try to execute append. But since one thread already entered the synchronized method, the string buffer, there is a lock called, for every object there is a lock. So since one thread already acquired the lock, the string buffer, this string buffer append method cannot be called from second thread because this thread. So until the append method is completed by the first thread, this won't be executed. That's why there won't be any issue if you use append method on the same string buffer object across multiple threads. But let us see, I will change this to builder, string builder, since the methods in the string builder are not synchronized. So if you share the same object across threads, what will happen? Suppose first thread executed 5 lines of append method. See, internally I am saying about the internal mechanism. In internally, append method may contain huge number of lines of code. So after some lines of code, if you try to call the append in the string builder, then it will also run concurrently. Then what will happen? The state of the string buffer will be modified in a bad way. That means, since in the string buffer, if one thread entering the append method, second thread cannot enter. But in the string builder, since the methods are not synchronized, when one thread is in the middle of append method, another thread may comes in middle and change the string buffer. So this will lead to some unexpected errors. Let us run this multiple times. You will see, you will get an error. Can you see? In string buffer, when you run multiple times, you never got exception when you append the contents from multiple threads. But if you try to append the contents to the string builder from multiple threads, you are getting exception because the methods in the string builder are not synchronized. So when one thread enters the append method, there is no guarantee that another thread also, so there is no guarantee that thread 2 won't run. So if one thread enters append method and if another thread also, there is every chance that another thread also can run the append method simultaneously. Since the method is not synchronized, thread 2 also can enter the append method. But if you take the case of string buffer, if one thread enters the synchronized method, then no other thread can enter any of the synchronized methods. There are many methods marked as synchronized in string buffer. So if one thread enters append method, another thread cannot enter any of the synchronized method. Let us see. Let us try to run multiple times. See, sometimes it works, okay, but most of the times you will get an error. These things come into picture only when in the production applications where there is a concurrency. Okay, hope you understood the string buffer and string builder. Thank you.